Hey guys, welcome to my weekly vlog. Today I want to talk to you guys about something I'm super duper passionate about, and that's anxiety and depression. I have been really nervous to make this video because anxiety and depression is such a taboo topic and not a lot of people are willing to talk about it. I think for a lot of people it's a matter of having the fear of looking weak or the fear of looking like something's wrong with them. I know when I first started to deal with anxiety and depression, my first reaction was, am I going crazy? Am I losing my mind? I'm a mom. I have two kids. I have adopted. I am a wife to a really great guy, and I have a really successful business online. So I'm not exactly what most people would think off the top of their heads of what depression looks like. And currently, I would say I'm in 95% remission from all symptoms. And I am very open and honest in saying that I do take medication for it. But the healing process was just so much more than taking medication. I found that when I spoke out about my journey with depression and I blogged about it and I talked to other women about it, I felt less alone. And I knew from my experience, by the way, I have a degree in psychology, totally like unrelated. I didn't study psychology because of depression. I studied it because of my dad. He has a mental illness. He has schizophrenia. So I talked to other women. I got involved in support groups. And over time, I realized that this is so much more common than we talk about, that it's more common than we think. And so once I started to get to know other women who were dealing with this and seeing that they are well-functioning, wonderful women that are not crazy, I started to feel a little bit better about my situation. And I felt stronger in the fact that I could get better, knowing that other women had gone into remission from their symptoms through various things like therapy, medication, change of diet, change of habits. All those things, I think, collectively work best together. I don't think one particular thing works the best. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm just a woman who has had this experience. But I want to talk to you guys about my symptoms and what I dealt with so that if you are out there and you are dealing with anxiety and depression, you can look and say, okay, I'm not alone. I know from just my experience and research, most people that do end up taking their own lives or giving up in the fight of depression is because they don't believe they're going to get better. They've tried countless options on treatment. They've been told over and over again, just get over it. They've been told over and over again, just pray the pain away, and it doesn't go away. And for those of you that don't know what depression feels like, which most of you do, but for those of you who don't know what it feels like, it's awful. There are no words to describe what depression feels like. It basically takes everything that you would normally have a normal, happy thought process about, and it turns it into this negative, sad thing. You will start to see the sadness in things that you would never normally see sadness in. And that is really hard because you could be, getting ready to go to your kid's soccer game where you're normally really excited about it. And you love to just sit and watch the soccer game and support your kiddo. But for some reason, you're not feeling that excitement or joy. For some reason, you're not excited. And it's not the same thing as a bad mood or being grumpy. It literally is a rain on your parade. It literally is clouds coming over what you would normally find peace and joy in. And it's really disheartening and scary because a lot of people with depression will tend to think, wow, am I going to feel like this forever? Is this the rest of my life? Because if it is, I'm not sure I want to live like this. That's the thought process I had when I first dealt with depression. My first bout of depression came and went really fast, fortunately. I was about 14 when I first realized that something was up. I had insomnia all of a sudden. I had this weird feeling of panic and doom and gloom, and I was scared. I thought, oh my gosh, what's happening with the world? Why does it feel like this? Fortunately, at that young age, my body snapped out of it, and I moved on pretty quickly. And then I had another bout of it again in college. My sophomore year, I had really bad stress and just anxiety. And I wasn't doing that great in school. I was fighting with my boyfriend at the time. I was overweight, didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like the way I felt. And I woke up one day feeling like there was this cloud over everything. And for those of you that don't know what depression feels like, you might be thinking, gosh, what a whiny, she's whiny or she's negative. If you know me, you know that I'm like really annoyingly positive half the time. So I try to stay optimistic. I'm upbeat. I find joy in simple things. I'm not complicated. So for me to say that things felt doomy and gloomy was odd for anyone to hear. Especially, my mom, my best friends are like, what? You're depressed? I would have never guessed. And I don't see it. I saw it. I felt it. And I felt very, very alone. I was then diagnosed at the age of 19 with bipolar syndrome, and it came and it went really fast. I got on medication, and within weeks of taking the medication, my symptoms went away, being that I had no experience prior to this bout, really, of, going through treatment. I thought, great, the medication worked. It cured my depression. I can go on feeling great about life again. And it did work out that way for a few years. And then I remember in 2008, when I graduated college and the economy was in the gutter, I was so stressed out about making payments on my debt, my bills. I woke up one day again with the most awful depression, just like this cloud over me, and just feeling lost and just sad about everything and anxious. And I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. Most people think when someone's depressed, they eat their feelings away. They gain a ton of weight. I'm the opposite. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. I stopped doing anything that would normally require me to feel joy through the process, like eating or sleeping. That comforting feeling you get while you eat and that comforting feeling you get while you sleep. I didn't feel any of that, so I didn't want to do it. So I lost a ton of weight, and that's when I finally got on medication and I stayed on it. I won't tell you exactly the name of the medication because I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, but I started taking an antidepressant, an SSRI, and within a few weeks, it happened really fast. I started to feel better again, and I stayed on that medication for 5 years, and I stayed in remission. And then I dealt with my most awful bout of depression. It started postpartum with my first baby. And it happened a year after my pregnancy, not weeks, not months, a year. And it worked its way up to something very intense and extreme. It started off, like, oh, I kind of feel blue, but I'm okay. I feel joy sometimes, but sometimes I have anxiety, and I'm worried about things that don't make a lot of sense. I'm worried about things that are irrational. I'm making irrational decisions. What's going on? And I refused to see a doctor because I didn't want there to be something wrong with me officially. I was just all about being in remission, and I was exercising, you guys. I was eating clean and healthy. I was losing weight. I thought, okay, then something must be really wrong with me that I have this amount of depression and anxiety, and I'm not feeling better with the way I'm eating and exercising. And that just sort of spiraled out of control. By the time my daughter was about 2.5, I hit rock bottom. I stopped sleeping, and days went into weeks of bad sleep. And that went into anxiety about sleep, about mental health, about depression. And then I ended up having depression. That led to a bout of what's called obsessive compulsive disorder. I started having extremely disturbing thoughts, extremely anxious thoughts, irrational thinking, obsessive compulsive thinking, intrusive thoughts. I was having thoughts that I would never normally have. They were just coming out of nowhere. It was terrifying. I eventually went partial inpatient. I was pregnant with my second baby, and I was like, I have to get help. Something doesn't feel right. And I started having suicidal thoughts. And I tell you guys, I'm sharing this with you not because I want a pity party, not because I want you guys to feel better for me. I'm sharing this because just in case one of you out there is watching this and is having suicidal thoughts or having anxiety and depression, you know there's treatment available from hearing what I'm saying, and I want you to believe that you are not alone. That's the lie that depression tells you, that you are alone, that there is no one else out there that gets it, and you're going to suffer forever. That's what I felt like in that time I went partial inpatient. I felt like, okay, I'm the only one that feels this way. Nobody gets it, and I'm never going to feel better. I remember telling every psychologist and psychiatrist I spoke to, I just want to feel better. I'm scared I'll never feel better again. I'm scared that I'll never feel joy and find joy in the little things ever again. I wouldn't even find joy in having a cup of coffee. I didn't find joy in watching my favorite television show. In fact, every television show made me depressed, more depressed. And I just wanted that joy back. Fortunately, I was able to get on medication that actually was more stronger than more intense than the medication I was on before. I went on a medication for OCD, anxiety, depression, and it took me about a year to find full remission. I want you to stew on that. 1 year of working my way up on a medication that seemed to be working. Then I got to a therapeutic dose, which took me 6 months to get to the therapeutic dose. Then it took 6 months for me to start to feel like I didn't have any symptoms. The sleep came back pretty quickly. The anxiety was the last thing to go. The depression was the first thing to go. The OCD was the very last thing to go. And what I really just take away from my entire journey is how alone I felt. I thought nobody out there understands. Nobody gets this. And I truly thought, really believed deep down in my heart of hearts that the only way out would have been to take my own life. And had I not had the experience with depression and anxiety before, I may not have really believed it was depression and anxiety. At one point, I believed it was real life. Like, this was what life felt like. And I didn't want to die, you guys. That is not me. That is not me at all. What I did feel like was I didn't want to live like this anymore. I felt like a burden to my family. I felt like a burden to my beautiful daughter. Like, who wants a mom with mental illness? I thought maybe if I just disappeared, I would be less of a burden on the people I love. And here I am on the other side of that thinking, wow, that is not true. My daughter needs me really bad. If I'm not in her life and something were to happen to me, it would have destroyed her life. It would have destroyed my husband's life. I wouldn't be here for Warren, my son that I have adopted. I wouldn't be here for anybody. And they need me. And there are lots of people that need me to be strong because they're going through this too. What happens? I thought to myself after, what would have happened if I gave up? How many other people would have gave up because I gave up? You know, it's kind of like this chain reaction. What if somebody else out there sees my journey of depression, sees that I gave up, and decides it's their turn? I couldn't live with myself thinking that way. Like, when I was going through, I was like, I cannot give up. Somebody out there is looking to me to not give up. And I don't think I would have ever gone through with the suicidal thoughts. It was more so this back of my mind, what if I was capable of that? And would that be my only way of feeling better? In fact, I found solace in thinking about that because I thought maybe that would be escape from my constant anguish with anxiety and depression. Fortunately, within, that 6-month time period of increasing my dose of my medication, I started to feel better and better. And I started to implement more meditation, more better sleep habits, less stress in my business, less stress in my home, and really started to change my diet. Went gluten-free, went mostly paleo, and I saw my symptoms decrease even further. And I think medication at that point really helped me to get to a point where I can take further action. When you're depressed and you have anxiety, the last thing you want to do is make a grocery list of organic food, go to the grocery store, grocery shop, and then meal prep. When you don't have motivation and you feel awful, that's the last thing you want to do. So I made the decision for myself because I love myself and because I love my family. I went on medication and I went to see a therapist. I am not a crazy person. I am a very successful woman in my industry. I have a beautiful little girl who I think is proud of her mommy. I am adopting a wonderful little boy. I have a very happy marriage. On the outside, everything looks good, right? But I am a silent sufferer. Right now, I'm not suffering, but who knows, maybe in a couple years, I'll be back to that again. But I know that there's treatment. I know that there's options, and I didn't give up. I kept pushing through those 6 months. Every day, I just kept saying, God, there has to be something better than this. There's something better. I know it. I just have to keep trying. My daughter deserves it. I deserve it. I have to keep trying. And again, guys, there were days where I was just like, there's no point. This is never going to go away. And I would cry and cry and cry and cry. But finally, the clouds started to part. And I'm so grateful that I never gave up. And I hope that you seeing me today, you hearing my message about depression and anxiety, will help you to stick out your treatment plan, to not give up, to listen to your doctors. Don't give up on yourself. If a doctor gives up on you, find a new doctor. Don't just settle for a family practitioner. Get in with a psychiatrist. And just because you go to see a psychiatrist or a therapist, it does not make you a bad person. It does not make you weak. It makes you strong. Being flexible, being amiable, being able to cope and to try new things and to put your guard down and to humble yourself. That's strength. That is true strength. Not giving up on your life and taking your own life. That is weak. Being changeable, coachable, being able to change and be flexible with life and decide, okay, I'm going to get help. I'm going to humble myself. I'm going to get help. That's strength. That's being strong. So be strong. Do not give up. If you ever just want to talk about your depression or your anxiety, please feel free to email me, the email below. I'm not a therapist, but I'm somebody who believes in you, and I'm somebody who has been through the journey. And I've been at that point where I thought nobody would get it. So I'm here as an open ear. If you just want to write me and talk, I would be glad to help you just have an open ear and help you to know that you're not by yourself. Millions of people deal with depression and anxiety every day. They just don't talk about it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. This will probably be one of many mental health videos that I make because depression, anxiety, OCD, all different symptoms, all different journeys that I've been able to come away from. So thanks for watching, guys.